In that phone call with Mexico's president, Mr. Trump called New Hampshire a drug-infested den. As a candidate, he pledged to end the opioid epidemic. So how's he doing? Julianna Goldman takes a look.
I promised the people of New Hampshire that I would stop drugs from pouring into your community.
As President Trump inartfully acknowledged in his call with Mexico's president, New Hampshire is an epicenter of the opioid crisis. He campaigned on a series of policy prescriptions there. We sat down last week with Richard Baum, acting director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy.
What grade would you give this administration so far in dealing with the opioid crisis?
I mean, I would give us an A+.
His answer suggests the grade is more of an incomplete.
We will stop the flow of illegal drugs into our country.
So having the men and women of Customs and Border Protection and DHS on our border working with infrastructure is progress and movement in the right direction.
We will close the shipping loopholes that China and others are exploiting to send dangerous drugs across our borders.
We are working closely with the Congress on legislation to have better and tighter controls.
I would dramatically expand first responders and caregivers' access to Narcan, and antidote that really, it's an antidote that treats overdoses.
Well, we in the administration have been advocating for access to naloxone, Narcan.
The president's budget asks for $10.7 billion for drug treatment, a $200 million increase, but it would cut $167 million from abuse prevention. And the Trump administration has tried to take credit for what's already in place.
President Trump and Secretary Price put out the $500 million for the 21st Century Cures Act.
But just to be clear, that's money from the previous administration.
Yeah, it is, absolutely.
There we go.
Right.
Gary Mendel is an advocate who lost his son to the opioid epidemic.
There's no question that candidate Trump was very vocal about attacking this issue. To date, the administration hasn't done anything.
The president formed an opioid commission in March. This week, the commission called on Mr. Trump to declare a national emergency and act boldly to stop it.
The president was in West Virginia and Ohio in the last week and did not mention the word opioid.
I'm meeting with people all through the administration at the highest level, and I can tell you—
The president is the highest level.
I tell you, there is very strong commitment by the White House and by the president on this problem.
The president was in West Virginia again last night and said there's, quote, a big problem there. Today, the Drug Enforcement Administration proposed a 20% cut in some of the most commonly prescribed opioids, along the lines of a promise Mr. Trump made in that New Hampshire speech. Anthony?
Julianna Goldman. Thank you, Julianna.